Hi, performers and achievers. Welcome to Performers and Achievers Daily with me, Gavurla. And today's episode is about your recovery. Your recovery includes your mental states of peace, calm, relaxed, and rested. And it also includes your physical environment. And they both occur during whatever it is you're participating in and afterwards of whatever you're participating in. So here are three examples. One is a work example. Then after the work example, I have another example. Then after that, I have another example. So the first example is a work example. Today, a client of mine had a new app that we could work together with or on. And because of security reasons, the app would not allow me to log in. Therefore, I called the IT help desk, and then they informed me to go to an actual physical client location to be able to authenticate myself. So it must have been some type of security issue because I'm on my laptop at home, whereas they're on a different network. They have different security protocols at the actual physical location. So I went and I was able to log in. Now, first of all, when I went in, before I went in, my mental state was of peace, calm, relaxed, and rested. And the reason was initially it wasn't like that. Initially it was sort of frustrating. I couldn't log in. And so in preparing, I knew I was to communicate with people when I went to the location. So my mental state, using my communication skills, and this encompasses everything with communication skills. My mental state was of peace, calm, relaxed, and rested as I was talking with and talking to or communicating with the other people. One person, then it was two people, and then a third. And so I went from frustrated to a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested. And that's a work example. Now, I could have gone in the work example, and I could have gone in being emotional, right? Or not being empathizing. And I would go in and just communicate in a manner that's just not a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, and rested. However, I did it. The second example, and therefore, first of all, to finish the first example, my physical environment is also positive. When I say physical environment, I'm talking about my body, any kind of body language, my feelings and emotions, well, really emotions is the physical. And therefore, as I was making my authentication established, I was using all of these mental states and my physical environment during and afterwards. And this was not a easy troubleshooting. It took almost an hour, if not more, to figure it out, to come up with the solution, or someone could say to problem solve. And it took both of us and another person and another person and another person, not all at the same time. So now I am authenticated. I can log into the app. Therefore, our communication is established and we're able to continue with being able to work together and me helping them. The second example is a sports example. Today it was 93 degrees here. And I was playing soccer or training soccer. And I was doing some soccer playing type of movements, dribbling the ball. And being 93, and for as long as I was dribbling and doing 5 sets, I started to lose my mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, and rested. My breathing was too hard. I wasn't able to get as much oxygen in to my muscles. And that's what happens when it's very hot outside. The oxygens don't receive muscles as easily, or the muscles do not receive oxygen as easily. And then my physical environment, which again is movement or motion, was obviously that I was not moving as well and couldn't breathe good. And this was occurring during. So, in order to create a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and me to be able to, in my physical environment, my movement and my breathing be established, I took a longer break between each set. So that it put me in a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and a physical environment that was the same or similar to where I could move and breathe regularly. If I didn't take those breaks during what I was doing, then I would not have been able to finish those 5 sets of dribbling. So that's important that I listen to my body and I could sense and tell that I was moving slower, my breathing was getting too hard to breathe, and therefore I wasn't in a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, and rested, nor physically my environment wasn't as so. And that was during. So then I come home and I have the third example, which is a family example, or in this case, my family, in your case, your family. So I come home and my dad doesn't see me coming home from sports training or soccer training. He just sees what he wants or needs and starts talking to me about whatever it is. I don't remember exactly what it was. And for a brief moment, I was about to say to not talk to me right now. Can we talk about this later? Then I realized that my dad's my priority, one of my priorities, and that by putting myself in a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and my physical environment the same, then I was actually able to talk with my dad. We talked about what it is that he wanted or needed to talk about. And I was able to, and we both were able to participate and communicate with each other, talk to each other. Now, what could have happened was that instead of having mental states of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and my physical environment similar, and of course, this is afterwards in my recovery, not during, afterwards, I could have shot off at him and with emotion and feelings, something to the effect, can't you see I just got back from exercising or playing soccer, training soccer, and I feel tired or I feel whatever. And I could just keep going. And that would have just caused a conflict, or it would have caused stress. And in reality, all it was to be aware of my mental states and my physical environment. And these are different than emotions and feelings. Because when your mental states of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and your physical environment are similar, then your emotions or feeling doesn't come first to cause you to not be in a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and physical environment similar. So this takes awareness. It's also, some people may call it a strategy or a tactic, or I just call it my recovery. It's probably best to call it that, for your recovery. So those are 3 examples. Notice I did not use the words emotions or emotions and feeling or feel during my podcast, except for when I was talking with the example about talking to my dad. And so what this does in another way of looking at it is that it regulates you. So that's the importance of your recovery during, and your recovery also occurs afterwards. Keep in mind, recovery occurs during also. So when you're working, when you're playing a sport, or when you're with your family, you have mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and the physical environment similar. This doesn't mean that you can't have positive emotions or feel an emotion that's not as positive, or that you can't feel. No, that's not what it's meaning. It's just that emotions are instantaneous. They don't last long. And the emotion doesn't. And then a feel or feeling lasts a little longer. However, it's not as, doesn't last as long as your mental states of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and physical environment. So here's another example, just so you can try to sense this. And I'll actually update the title of my episode. This has come to my mind because so many people talk about happy. So happiness is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. And I can add the word contentment or content also there. So mental states of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, happy, and contentment. And physical environment. Similar. Now that doesn't mean that with that you can't pair a smile with happy when you're happy. However, which would be an emotion. However, you can be happy without smiling. And then contentment is similar. So this is important for you in your recovery during and afterwards. So let's say you're playing, let's say you're working, or you're playing a sport or training a sport, or you're with your family. Well, while you're working, say you had 10 action items or 10 things to accomplish. Nobody says you got to do them all 10 in a row. How about doing 2 or 3 and then summarizing the way you did those 2 or 3, and then go to the next one. Instead of feeling the stress, pressure, maybe even the anxiety of just trying to get through all 10 as fast as you can, because doing it the other way, you'll be faster than when you're stressed, have anxiety. And so with your physical environment, be peace, calm, relaxed, rested, happy, contentment. So during sports, let's say you're running sprints with your team. You run a 7-meter sprint, a line of, I don't know, 5 people. There's like 5 sets of 5. Well, in between the time you run and until the next time you run, you like in a mental state of peace, calm, relaxed, rested, and similar in your physical environment? Or are you stressed, have anxiety, or using too much self talk so that you be right before it's your turn to sprint again? You do it the first way, your sprint is faster. Do it the second way, and you have stress and anxiety. And your sprint's not as fast, and your mental state is not of peace, calm, relaxed, rested. Similarly, your physical environment isn't. And happy mental state is really not there. Contentment, that might be there. However, sometimes both of those are there. They're just not as prevalent. So that's very important. And then with family, it's very similar. Eventually, I was able to, after I talked to my dad, go into my recovery routine afterwards, which is a longer recovery routine. I was able to do my recovery routine, drank an electrolyte mix, ate some fruit, make sure that I drank some water, and then just meditate, do some breathing exercises, and then take a shower, and then prepared and ready for my PM routine. So I've shut everything down in my mental states of those activities that I participated in, whether it was work, sports, family. Now, when I have my PM routine, so in my PM routine, I'm just looking forward to just maybe watching mindless TV or hanging out with my dad or reading. It's something really simple and easy. That's what I have for you today. If you like my podcast, like it. For those of you who are interested in my private, personal, professional, confidential services and programs with me, visit my website, rajgavurla.com, fill out the brief form, and we will contact you as soon as we can. Enjoy your day.